Right, welcome. My name is Peter Samson. I'm the Languages and IT Curriculum Manager. Also, tutor, French tutor from Middlesbrough Community Learning Service. I'd like to talk about our experience with various projects in relation to what is defined as the expert learner and also independent learning opportunities and experiences. Um, so first of all, we worked with a project which we called Amigos. It was a pilot project. It was very, very important to use pilots in finding out what went wrong and what was good and what was bad. And we were working with an organisation in La Coruña in Galicia in Spain. This organisation had experience in the type of project we wanted to look at, and it was basically to give learners the opportunity to use Skype in using in learning languages. We then tried another pilot project in France with a partner in Bourges, l'Institut Municipal d'Éducation. Again, very important pilot project. We only had 3 learners from Middlesbrough, from the UK, and 3 learners from France. Quite interesting, the difference in the way that the learners engaged with the French project as opposed to the Spanish project from both the UK point of view and the French point of view, a little bit more hesitant in engaging in the project. And in fact, one of our learners from Middlesbrough pulled out, hence the failure. And we worked out why, and he was very unsure about use of technology. And these are things that we took on board, very important points. Another strand to the project was in fact Amigos in Russia. This is something that creates or will create different challenges in the fact that it could be said that in schools in particular where I was working at Easter, it could be said that the teaching approach is perhaps more traditional in the sense that let's call it chalk and talk. There are infrastructure problems in Russia, certainly with broadband speeds and probably access to technology. However, the learners are extremely interested and extremely keen on taking this forward. So different challenges with this particular project. So this a lot of the reflection from the pilot projects is based on the expert learner, and this has come about from my point of view. It's come about from my experience with the subject learning coach program, which was run for adult education tutors and college for that matter. The program I was very, very interested in, and especially the expert learner. In other words, adult learners, do they know how to learn? All sorts of phrases like harnessing technology, their fear of technology, introducing the technology strand in the sense that, is it part of everyday learning as it is in universities, taken for granted. We've got certainly more challenges in our sector, something to take into consideration whilst planning courses and inductions. Very, very interesting outcomes regarding the use of Skype, particularly in some of the courses, the French course in particular. When introducing the project, lots of people say, "Oh yes, now I do use Skype because I talk to my nephew in Canada, or I talk to my auntie in Australia, or I talk to my friend here," and so on. And what we found was that learners were very willing to help other learners. Hence, come around to our house. I'll show you how to do it, or someone will set it up for you. We can practice with each other. I live in Mask, you live in Middlesbrough, and so on. This is very, very important in that peer support was clearly something to take into consideration whilst planning the next stage of the project. Lots of positive outcomes. The actual program is sustainable. We are working. This is the next stage. We'll be looking at how we can make um, the assessment process standardized. How to standardize it. We'll be looking at that. Very incredibly positive fact that learners continue to study just informally. So they would arrange their meetings online, but continue. One learner didn't even bother with the assignments, but still talking to their amigo in Spain, consequently improving the language. And of course, tutors have mentioned that the increase in language skills in the people involved in the pilots has grown amazingly with the spoken skills of the learners. And of course, the positive outcome is intercultural knowledge, this transfer of information, which happens informally, is something that probably can't be measured at the moment. We're looking at that, which we'll talk about in a new project. We have the interest from Ofsted, which is extremely important from our point of view, in the fact that the practice that is recognised. But it'll be interesting to see how Ofsted follow this up. Obviously, there will be a report, but it wants to be shared. I believe it needs to be sharing the good practice. So a few problems, certainly lots of challenges. Matching learners up is interesting. It's something that you be very careful with, especially obviously with safeguarding issues. So you're matching up or mismatching in some cases. Level of study is interesting because even though the native speaker may be of a higher level of study, let's say that the French person studying English may have a higher level of English than the English person who has a low level of French, and this level of study is quite important, but not a barrier. And this is something that we need to get over to the learners. Obviously, fear of technology. We need to have more workshops. We need to encourage learners to share peer support. All sorts of examples of independent study. We've got possibilities now of a learner who's actually in Indonesia wanting to study French. She's been in touch with me. We've got lots of offshore workers up in the northeast, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Lots of distance learning models, of which we probably need to take a leaf from the Open University book. Newcastle City Learning are piloting some distance learning language programs. The Scilly Islands have been working with learners in a classroom with a tutor somewhere in Wales, which is quite interesting. Problems regarding independent study could be all sorts of accessibility, broadband connections. But generally, we need to be catering for the demand of the learner. This is certainly something that's more obvious now. So, lots of issues in rethinking. Culture change is always sometimes more about the teacher, and in the sense that the learner is demanding this. They are now much more au fait, if you like, with technology. So we need to adapt our teaching and learning accordingly. Funding is always an issue, in that for training, equipment the same, and of course it's the learner who's demanding. So power to the learner there.